Pronounced, defined, used in lexical dispatch.
Defect or defect, noun. Defect, verb. Defector, defection. An imperfection in a bodily system. Shortcoming, deficiency, flaw, blemish. To abandon one cause, party, or nation for another, often because of a change in ideology. Zealot, noun. An ardent and even militant advocate of something. A fanatical partisan. A defect in protein synthesis leads to defects in learning, memory. Some diseases like sickle cell anemia, for example, are caused by a defect in only one gene. Within less than a decade, the occurrence of congenital birth defects increased by an astonishing 17-fold in the same hospital. Glyphosate, the herbicide used on genetically modified soybeans, may be causing birth defects in animal fetuses. Be sure to tell your doctor whatever you were diagnosed with: heart disease, a rhythm disorder, or peripheral artery disease, or had a congenital heart defect. Referring diagnoses include atrial septal defect, pulmonic stenosis, and rheumatic heart disease. People need to understand that depression and mental illness is not a character defect. The existence of any structural defect presents a serious threat to your physical safety. A possible defect in this filter is that interstellar scintillations can also be different at the two sites. Fearing he would not receive justice, he defected to the Spartans and was condemned and disgraced in absentia. Columnist Sidney Zion has defected from the New York Daily News to its rival tabloid, the New York Post. If that were a good idea, libertarians would be defecting en masse from their core convictions whenever the majority wanted more state control. Short of a defector willing to spill secrets, the inspectors may only be able to build a circumstantial case based on visits to factories and research centers. The defection of various members of the society becomes rampant after 2000, but this is no indication about the end of the regime, but might be weakening. I might be a Christian, but I am not a zealot. I have my beliefs, and I don't believe in forcing religion on the masses. I'm not a zealot. I use both Microsoft and Apple gear, and while a lot of my SQL Server friends rant against cloud-based and NoSQL databases, I like those too. She was described as a religious zealot, an anti-abortion extremist, a blind champion of abstinence-only sex education. The religious zealot is a fool for using God to discredit science, and the intellectual atheist is a fool for using science to discredit God. The sermon was delivered with energy by a young woman, a divinity student, I believe, with the light of the zealot in her eyes and the flame of absolute conviction in her voice. So what does that make you? A zealot who lacks the ability to think critically. Regrettably, due to persistent abuse of privilege by a deranged Christian zealot, I have reverted to moderating all comments. In West Wing, we meet three varieties of zealot: the dumb, the bigoted, and the naive. Brett felt his mouth moving and felt his heart racing, and had no idea why he was proffering his life to the zealot. Far too many in our movement are making our case harder and harder to present because they treat anyone who is even a degree outside of the accepted worldview as a leper at best and a crazy zealot more often. His friends claim that becoming an anti-corporate governance zealot remains a distinct possibility for this man of many talents. Well-intentioned zealots whose prescriptions often exhibit intolerance even when advocating tolerance.